everyone. It's great to be with you at this third Texas Hispanic Farmer and Rancher Conference. And thank you for inviting me to share some thoughts about the past and future of the food system of the Rio Grande Valley. Every now and then it's good to step back, look where you've been, and try to remember how the world has changed. So here we are at the end of a decade, and as it happens, I first visited the Rio Grande Valley just about 10 years ago. So I'm going to take this opportunity to think back over the past decade, remember many experiences and many friends, and a lot of changes that have taken place over these past 10 years. If you're not familiar with NCAT, we're a national nonprofit organization with programs in sustainable agriculture and sustainable energy, and 8 offices around the country. Most of our work in South Texas is done from our office in San Antonio. We run the ATRA, Sustainable Agriculture Information Service, and I'd encourage all of you to check out our ATRA website, atra.ncat.org, where you'll find hundreds of publications and videos, and they're all free. I also want to acknowledge my 4 NCAT colleagues who work with me at our Southwest Regional Office: Robert Maggiani, Justin Duncan, Kara Kroger, and Colin Mitchell. All of them are involved in this conference, and if you haven't met them yet, I hope you will soon. We've all spent a lot of time in the Rio Grande Valley. Okay, about a year ago, the Rockefeller Foundation challenged people and organizations around the world to develop positive visions of a regenerative and nourishing food system, one that could be created realistically by the year 2050. When I heard about this contest, I immediately thought of the Rio Grande Valley. Some of us put together a team, we created a vision, and we entered the contest. A lot of people contributed to this vision, including many of you at the conference here today. So here's our vision in a nutshell. In the year 2050, the people of the Rio Grande Valley will grow most of their own food using regenerative methods that are resilient in a changing climate. The Rio Grande Valley has, in the year 2050, one of the most self-sufficient, nourishing, and resilient food systems in the entire country. Now, in the next few slides, I want to explain this vision to you in a little bit more detail, or at least hit some highlights. So please time travel with me into the future and imagine the year 2050. There's still many environmental challenges facing the Rio Grande Valley in the year 2050. The population has roughly doubled to about 3 million people, and climate change has also made the region much hotter than it was in 2020. Droughts are longer, more frequent, and more intense. However, in the year 2050, many of these environmental challenges are being met because depleted soils have been brought back to life. This happened because farmers and the general public realized that soils could be improved in a matter of several years, not decades, but several years through the use of cover crops, no-till farming, rotational livestock grazing, and other methods. In fact, these methods were proven to be more efficient and affordable in the long run than relying on synthetic fertilizers, pesticides, and herbicides. So in the year 2050, most soil in the Rio Grande Valley is now covered in vegetation year-round, shading and cooling the surface, as you can see in the picture at the bottom. Although water pollution and scarcity are still major challenges, nurturing microbial life in the soil has greatly reduced both problems. Agriculture uses far fewer toxic chemicals than it did in the year 2050. Water use for irrigation has become more efficient. And because healthy soils are holding more water, annual flows in the Rio Grande River have increased substantially. There are new economic winners and losers in the year 2050, And the people of the Rio Grande Valley are among the winners. There are many more livelihoods and good paying jobs than there were in 2020 related to the production and distribution of food. Despite urbanization, there are still 1.8 million acres of farmland, mostly owned by family farmers, just as it was in 2020. Most farming operations are still small. However, incomes have increased dramatically because farms have expanded, markets have expanded for high value and locally produced products, including crops produced organically, livestock that are grass-fed and raised without the use of antibiotics or hormones. In 2050, the large cities of Texas need fruits, vegetables, and other foods that are now very hard to get from places far away like California. Food imports to the United States from other countries have also fallen far below their 2020 level because all these other countries are now facing their own climate, water, and food security challenges. Fossil fuels, now rarely used for transportation, are extremely expensive. And so the old idea of growing cheap food and transporting it long distances is no longer working. Every nation and every community is looking inward, asking how it can produce its own food. The 50 million people who now live in Texas in the year 2050 are looking to the Rio Grande Valley for food. And people of the United States have realized that a narrow band of farmland along their southern border is really essential for food production, especially in the winter months. Because farming incomes are now high, farming and related jobs have become highly profitable career paths. Farmers are held in high esteem, similar to doctors, and make slightly more per year. The federal crop insurance system has also been overhauled. Skyrocketing crop insurance payments due to climate change caused a public outcry so loud that conservative and liberal political groups finally joined forces to dismantle the perverse agricultural subsidies that were overwhelmingly benefiting large corporate farms. With bipartisan support, a new system of USDA rules and incentives emerged, strongly encouraging organic farming, which was seen to be an approach that's resilient during times of climate disruption and largely manages its own risks without the need for public subsidies. All these changes work to the advantage of the Rio Grande Valley, part of the country uniquely positioned to grow fruits and vegetables organically on small farms year-round and deliver them to large urban areas, which are very nearby. Diets have also changed in the year 2050. Now over half of all the food consumed in the Rio Grande Valley is grown in the Rio Grande Valley. And just 25% of the food grown in the Rio Grande Valley ever leaves Texas. There are gardens everywhere. Fruit and vegetable acreage has doubled, and because of climate change, there's now a large increase in tropical fruits. Diets have also improved through this influx of fresh, locally grown fruits and vegetables, so the incidence of obesity and diet-related diseases like diabetes has decreased dramatically and is now among the lowest anywhere in the United States. Okay, that's essentially the vision that we presented to the Rockefeller Foundation, and I do believe it's completely possible. But in case it seems overly optimistic, I want to now point out many of the positive changes that have already been happening over the past decade, and things are definitely moving in the direction of this vision. First, the community is undoubtedly valuing and taking pride in locally grown foods. And we can all see this in the farmers markets that have sprung up in nearly every major city, also in the many local restaurants that have started buying directly from farms and featuring locally grown food. When I first visited the Rio Grande Valley in the year 2010, farmers markets were smaller and there were very few restaurants featuring local produce. Local chefs today are appreciating the high quality and the wide variety of food that can be grown in South Texas. And in fact, there are very few regions of the entire country that can produce such a variety of fruits and vegetables and meats year-round. Compared to a decade ago, more farms are also using sustainable methods. We've seen this in the many new farms that are starting in the past decade, and organic production has become a special point of pride. Several farms were already using organic methods when I first came to South Texas in 2010, but many have now taken the step of becoming USDA certified organic. And in fact, Hidalgo County is now one of the top counties in Texas in its number of organic farms. Now, all these changes haven't come about by accident, but I think they're more a cumulative effect from a lot of hard work on the part of many people in many organizations. So in the rest of this talk, I would just like to highlight a few of the good projects and people that I think have really made an impact over the past decade. I hasten to point out that this is only going to be a small and selective sample based on my own memory and experience. There are going to be many, many other people who have contributed, and I'm sure that includes many of you here at this conference. First, I want to recognize Barbara Storz. Barbara was one of the first people I met when I visited the Rio Grande Valley in the year 2010. And even at that time, she had already been teaching organic and sustainable farming and gardening since 1998. During her career, Barbara has reached and educated thousands of people through her work as a Texas A&M AgriLife Extension horticulturist, her Master Gardener programs, the Grow and Growers educational program, and more recently through her weekly radio program, Agronomically Speaking, where she goes by the name of the Garden Gal. One reason why I think people in the Rio Grande Valley, I firmly believe they will be growing most of their food in the year 2050, is because Barbara has already shown a lot of them how to do it. Next, I want to mention a project called the Texas Organic Initiative, which was run by NCAT from about 2013 to 2018, and specifically called attention to the opportunities related to organic farming. Along with my colleagues, we wrote reports, we gave many workshops, we provided training for agricultural educators on the organic standards and certification, and we were funded to do at least 3 different projects I can remember promoting organic farming. In the course of these projects, we discovered that Texas is really missing out on some tremendous economic opportunities and is greatly underperforming in the number of organic farms. And this is one reason why I believe organic farming is almost certain to grow and continue to grow in the Rio Grande Valley and other parts of Texas. Next, I want to mention the SOAR Partnership, and that stands for the Subtropical Organic Agriculture Research Partnership. This was a joint project between NCAT and the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley. And during this project, Dr. Alex Rossellis and dozens of his students conducted research projects to meet the needs of area farms, looking at topics like controlling weeds and insect pests and looking for crop varieties that would thrive in an organic farming system. The university also created the very first certified organic garden on any campus in Texas, the agroecology garden. And I particularly remember the outstanding work of the Environmental Awareness Club, student club on campus. I worked very closely with the club. We did a survey of attitudes about food and farming, and the Environmental Awareness Club took on food as a major issue and raised a lot of awareness on the campus. I should mention that over the past decade, there's been some really outstanding leadership at the university, including Dr. Rossellis. But more broadly, when the university opened its medical school in 2016, and then numerous health-related programs, it's really defined itself as a center for research and education related to food, nutrition, and human health. So the university has created an agroecology program, started a new center for sustainable agriculture and rural advancement, and now offers a bachelor's degree in sustainable agriculture and food systems. And you can also run a master's degree in agricultural, environmental, and sustainability sciences. All this is completely new, did not exist in the year 2010. Many students have now majored in these areas, and the whole campus has been exposed to these ideas related to sustainable agriculture and local food. Many students have gone on to careers in agriculture or food, and it's really the leadership role of the university that makes me feel confident that the growth of sustainable farming is going to continue, and that the skill and hard work of local farmers is going to be appreciated and held in high esteem in the year 2050. A spin-off from the SOAR project was called Farm to Health. This was an innovative farm to hospital program, actually one of the first of its kind anywhere in the nation, which delivered fresh local produce to employees at a doctor's hospital at Renaissance in McAllen. So through this program, staff members at the hospital sign up to receive regular produce deliveries during the growing season, and that directly supports area farms. Probably more importantly, the medical community in the Rio Grande Valley now recognizes the value and the importance of fresh local produce. And I really do expect these connections between food and health to continue and to be obvious to everyone in the year 2050. Next, I want to highlight two programs that have been training and supporting beginning farmers. The first is Hope for Small Farm Sustainability, which, as many of you know, is located in Harlingen and was started by Diana and Saul Padilla. And full disclosure, both Diana and Saul were members of the team when we created our vision for the Rockefeller Foundation. Hope provides training and education to low-income and disadvantaged families, small-scale farmers, and really anyone interested in growing, preparing, or selling their own food. They do gardening workshops, cooking classes, and mentoring with people interested in organic farming. And if you haven't been following them in the past few years, Hope has really taken off and is growing, which is wonderful. More than any organization I can think of in the Rio Grande Valley, they are really the ones who are teaching people to grow their own food. And I feel very confident they will still be around and pursuing that mission in the year 2050. For at least 8 years that I can remember, and maybe longer, the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley has also had a training program for beginning farmers, which is currently known as the Frontera Beginning Farmer and Rancher Development Project. So between them, these two projects, these two programs have trained hundreds of people on the basics of farming and helped them start new farm businesses. There have also been several efforts to promote direct marketing and business development. And here I just want to highlight a couple of these. There was a project called Beyond Fresh, Expanding Opportunities for Value-Added Food Products in Texas. This was a joint project between NCAT and the Texas Center for Local Food, and it was funded by Southern SARA, the Southern Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education Program. This was really a project about creating value-added food products to generate higher incomes for small farms. We created a workbook that you can find and download for free on the ATRA website, again, atra.ncat.org. The second project I want to highlight is called the Texas Local Food Pipeline, Building Farm to Wholesale Connections. This is a joint project of NCAT and the Common Market Texas. And it's funded by the USDA Local Food Promotion Program. And it's preparing small and direct market farmers to scale up and start selling wholesale. I need to mention also the Texas Rural Cooperative Center at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley, which has been doing excellent work for many, many years. And as many of you know, there have been quite a few farmer cooperatives popping up in the Rio Grande Valley. The Subtropical Soil Health Initiative is another joint effort between the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley and NCAT. For the past 3 years, we've been conducting research mainly on the use of cover crops to improve soil health, also on reducing tillage in crop farming. Again, dozens of students have been involved in this project, and there are going to be a number of talks about our project at this conference, this Hispanic Farmer and Rancher Conference. Because of the research we've been doing, I feel very confident in saying that cover crops will be common in the Rio Grande Valley in the year 2050. They're very uncommon now, but I'm sure they'll be common 30 years from now. And I believe it's going to be unusual to see bare soil during the summer months. Keeping ground covered is going to be very, very good for restoring soil health in the Rio Grande Valley. I'm very happy to say that this work is going to continue through another grant that's just recently been received by UTRGV for what's called an on-farm trials project. This is going to encourage local farms to try cover crops. It's going to pay for much of the cost, and that'll take place over the next 4 years. And I guess at this point, I should really give special recognition to NRCS, the Natural Resources Conservation Service of USDA, which, as you've noticed, has funded many, many of these important projects. I also want to touch on the Soil for Water project. This is a project of NCAT. Mostly I've been talking about farming today, but ranching is very much part of the bright future for the Rio Grande Valley. Since around 2014, NCAT has been running this project. We started it really during the drought years. We called it Soil for Water. And what we're doing is working closely with ranchers who want to try land management techniques that improve soil health and allow them to catch and hold more water in their soils. The way this is taking shape, it's becoming a peer-to-peer learning network. And very soon we will have opportunities for anyone who's on this listening in, who's interested, to join our network and share and learn with other landowners. I would invite you to visit our website, which is easy to remember, soilforwater.org, soilforwater.org. Again, I fully expect these methods of regenerative grazing and ranching to be common in the year 2050 because they work and they would make ranches more profitable. Finally, I do want to mention this conference. As most of you know, my colleague Robert Maggiani really was the inspiration who started this conference, and NCAT was very proud to host it for the first 2 years, the first times it was put on. But we're very, very happy to be passing the torch to the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley this year, and they've actually done a wonderful job. So incidentally, how did we do in the Rockefeller contest? Well, we didn't win, but as you know, it really doesn't matter too much how we were judged by a panel of people far, far away who've never been to the Rio Grande Valley. What really matters is what we do with this vision and whether we take steps to bring it about. So with that, I want to thank you for following me, joining me on this brief trip into the future and into the past. And my message is that the food system of the Rio Grande Valley has a bright future. And that's thanks to a lot of hard work by a long list of people and organizations. So I do hope you will join me in imagining a bright future for the Rio Grande Valley food system in the year 2050. I believe that if we hold this vision in our minds and continue working together, we can bring it about.
Thank you for sharing those thoughts with us, Mike. We do have Dr. Mike Morris with us. He's here. There he is. Hi, thanks for joining us.
Hey, everybody.
I have a couple questions. The first one is, what opportunities do you see for farmers to move our region's culture and economy towards the vision you presented for 2050?
Wow. Well, I think the opportunities are huge. Obviously, I'm optimistic now. I think the the local food thing is the biggest one, and I've seen it move so far in just these past several years. Um, the economic opportunities to sell within South Texas, and then it's just not too far to reach the gigantic markets in Houston, in San Antonio, up in Austin, and even Dallas. So just the enormous population of Texas is such a big asset, and in the Rio Grande Valley, you're in the main farming region. So I know there are issues and challenges, but what I've really observed is the growth of the local food movement, how far it's come in the valley, and farms are succeeding. They're finding these markets. They're finding ways to get a fair price for their products and raise their incomes. So I think I would, and so many have started. I mean, there are so many small beginning farms that I know will continue to grow, but I think it's and there's also a very good mentoring. There's so many people that are available to help and to share what they know. People like Juan Ragosa and the Padillas and so many others. So I don't know. I mean, if people are already farming, I think if they want to scale up and begin to explore these wholesale markets, we're certainly happy to help at NCAT. And of course, the university is a great help in that as well. And for others who just maybe have a garden, but are thinking about getting into selling some of that produce. It's a precious thing, and it's needed in the community.
Our poll earlier showed that we have quite a few beginning farmers with us, so the less than the 10 years. Do you have, or do you know of some sort of database or resource where they could go and find even more mentors or more connections?
That's a great question. I would have to say, having lived in many different states, I think it's a little harder in Texas because it's such a big state, and we're not as organized. Maybe we're a little bit more into the freedom and independence or something, but it's not as always easy. We have some great organizations, TOFCA, Texas Organic Farmers and Gardeners Association, very friendly. If people want to meet others who are doing this kind of work, that's a good one. FARFA, the Farm and Ranch Freedom Alliance, is another one that really supports small farms and small ranches, and will certainly be very happy to help you you'll meet other people that are interested in this kind of farming. But it's challenging. I mean, we have very few training programs. There's one called Farm Share Austin, which is an incubator program for those who are really just at the very beginning. But I don't really know. There are USDA sites that are dedicated to beginning farming and to the beginning farmer and rancher development grant program. Honestly, I would encourage anyone who's looking for that sort of help to speak to Juan Ragosa at the university, who is heading up the beginning farmer training program at the university, and he is doing a great job. Is offering a lot of help and connections, and can also connect you to those larger resources, the national resources and the state resources that we have. Other good groups are popping into my head. Texas Young Farmers Coalition is another wonderful one. Has a good listserv, and there's a lot of good information sharing. So I think if you explore around a little bit, you'll find a very friendly group of other beginning farmers who are more than happy to share what they know.
Yeah, even within SARA, within our department, we have Juan and we have Cruz, and then we have other staff members that can help with the business planning part, because like it or not, that's right, that's part of the farming business. Um, and then locally, we have Frontera Farmers Coalition, which I think you talked about, and a lot of others. Hope is another one. And that beginning farmer team that you just mentioned is actually our next presentation. We have a panel of representatives from that team.
There you go.
Couple other questions. How does the Durande Valley food system compare to what is happening in other parts of the U.S.?
Well, you have so many advantages. I mean, that's the first thing. You have a year-round growing season. You have so many things you can grow. The diversity that's possible, the tropical fruits, the things you can grow are amazing, and they're valuable. So that's the first thing that jumps out in my mind. There's of course a tradition. It is an agricultural region, so you have a lot of infrastructure that's already ready to go and available to you. So again, I think it's a place with great natural resources, with great human resources. The university now is emerging as another great resource. So I mean, the first thought is just you have so much going for you, so many advantages if you take advantage of those things. Yeah, we follow local food and sustainable farming all over the country, and it's happening everywhere. I think Texas has been a little bit behind, so things are not quite as strong at the state level. But yeah, the first things that come to my mind is the Rio Grande Valley has such incredible natural gifts, natural resources, and it's hot down there, but you know, you have challenges. Don't get me wrong. It's going to be different, but I think we see people succeeding and making it work. So yeah, great advantages.
Yeah, well, maybe not in the hot kind of thought of it, but what are there particular regions or partnerships that we could use as a model, maybe?
Oh, that's a great question. You know, I think of parts of the country that are maybe doing more to support their farms and these local food systems. We can certainly learn from them. I should have mentioned, you know, the ATRA website, which we run, atra.ncat.org, is also a great resource, and we are a national organization. So my colleagues and I would be more than happy to talk to you about what we observed in other parts of the country. Certainly places like New England, California, the Northwest are very, very strong, and they've you know, they're ahead of us. They have more training programs. They have more policy changes that are working to the advantage of local people. But training, I think, would be something I see a great need for, and it's beginning. Again, we have some beginning farmer training programs. We could certainly use a lot more in Texas generally, and including in South Texas. One or two things happening in San Antonio. We see urban farming coming up in San Antonio. Everything's just a little bit behind. So I think it's the good thing of that is we can look at other places in the country and learn from them, and maybe skip ahead a few steps. There's so much support. I mean, NRCS, as we've all heard, is really, really behind all of you who are interested in farming, interested in food, and they're really serious about it. And so I'm not sure I'm answering your question, but I think there are a lot of other places that are ahead of us in terms of the support that they're providing. But we're catching up, and we've got many advantages as well.
Yeah, of course, Texans have to do things our own way.
Of course.
A couple last comments that were made here. Ulysses says, the Battleground to Breaking Ground is a program for beginning farmers and veterans. There's another resource. I know we had veterans on yesterday. I'm not sure we have any today.
Yeah, I'm sure I forgot so many great programs, and I apologize for that. I just had to pick and choose a handful that that I could remember personally. Absolutely, that's a wonderful training program.
And then a last comment from Andrea Olvera. Muchísimas gracias. Excelente información. Thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you.